In today's video, I'm going to show you how to draw this cartoon fish using the iPad and Procreate. It's all in real time too, so you can see every step along the way from the sketch process to inking to doing color flats and then highlights and shadows. So if you want to follow along step by step and draw with me, keep watching. All right guys, so let's go ahead and draw a cartoon fish. Starting out, I'm using a 3000 by 3000 300 dpi canvas. For my brush, I'm going to be using my cartooning set, which is available on Gumroad right now. I'll leave it down in the description below. Starting out the sketch process, we're just going to use the cartoon sketch pencil to begin with. And for my color palette, once again, I've got this pre-made, so if you want to download the exact same colors that I'm using in today's tutorial, you can do that. Just head over to my website, BeeJayDeL.com, underneath the YouTube reference materials page, which I'll link it down in the description below. You'll find this, like I said, download it for free. There's also a video at the top of the page that helps walk you through the install process if you've never installed a palette in Procreate before. So that being said, let's go ahead and hop into it. So starting out, I'm just going to start sketching this fish, and I think rather than having like a circle fish, I'm going to have this one a little bit more kind of rectangled. So it's got a little bit more of a different design to it, give it a little bit more character. So I'm just going to start out with the basic shape then of the fish here. And then we'll have this kind of come down. We'll bring this down into the tail right down here. It's kind of wider body here at the top, at the head, and then bringing it down and narrows them down here. And we'll kind of work in the tail down here. You'll see I'm just using kind of basic shapes to block everything out right now. And everything's really sketchy right now. I've talked about this before. I like to keep the sketch phase just exactly what it is, a sketch phase. I don't try to make everything perfect. I don't try to define everything right at the beginning. So if this is the first video you've watched of mine, it might look bad now, but I guarantee you by the end, it will look better. And then as I go around, just kind of building up the shapes around the base shapes that I have. The base shapes just are there to kind of help me visualize everything. And I kind of start to fine tune everything from there. But like I said, just still keeping it kind of rough and sketchy. All right, so now let's get an eye in here. So I'm going to do a kind of big oval here for this eye. And I think we'll kind of have the head come down here and around. It's going to be kind of a 3/4 perspective. So we'll have this eye in here just kind of tucked back behind. So you can see this full eye here, and then the way the head comes down here kind of hides this eye back here. Get these pupils in here, just kind of small. Make this one a little bit smaller here. Really kind of beady eye here. Kind of like that, looks cool. And then for the mouth, I don't know if I want to do kind of like a smile here coming down. Or how about if we do like a severe, like big bottom lip here, kind of like a underbite or underbite coming out here. I think that might be kind of cool having that coming out past. And that way we can pull some teeth in here. I think that looks kind of cool there. So with this, just kind of fleshing out ideas. So keeping it loose like this allows me to kind of, like I said, go back in with that smile. Do I like that? Do I like this better? And just kind of allows me to be really fluid in the design phase. I think here under the eyes, maybe doing some kind of bags here under the eyes. And we kind of wrap those around here too. And to do this, the technique that I'm using, I just did a video last week about it, drawing from the shoulder. If you guys haven't watched that video, definitely check that one out on my channel. Drawing from the shoulder really allows you to kind of keep a very loose and fluid drawing style. Outline the whole thing in the video, so definitely check that out. I think it'll help a lot of people. Really, a lot of times you want to draw from the wrist starting out, just because that's how we write. And being able to draw from the shoulder, number one, it's going to alleviate some wrist pain. And number two, it just helps you get these really quick, fluid lines And it's going to allow you to create a lot faster too. So there we go. We got the basic design of the fish. I'm going to grab the arrow here and kind of shrink this down just a tad bit. I want to go a little bit more in depth with this one and do some background stuff on this today. So I think we probably come down here. Maybe we put in some seaweed kind of here floating in the ocean. Kind of adds a little bit more to this design. That there, and maybe some of the coral things here coming up. Those corals, I don't know, the pink things. Just drawing some of those there, just to add, like I said, a little bit extra. I'm gonna grab this selection tool here and just kind of shrink this one down a little bit. I like the shape of it, but just overall, it's getting in a little bit too close there. Shrinking that down there. All right, I think overall that looks pretty good there. I think I might kind of adjust this eye and move it just a tad bit here so that that bottom eyelid here kind of lines up with that one a little bit better. I think that looks good. So that's going to be the sketch. Now it's time to kind of finalize everything, make it a little bit more presentable, less sketchy, and we'll do that in the inking process. So to do the inks, what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to our layers menu. Let's tap on that, and I'm going to make a new layer here. So this is going to be our inks layer. Layer 1 is our sketch layer, and I'm going to hit the N for the blend mode to bring this up and drop the opacity here down to about 35, 36%, 37, whatever. We just don't want it too dark. We want to be able to draw on top of it and not have too much of it showing through to where it takes away and distracts us. So now that we've got that set, I'm going to go up here and switch my brush. Once again, still with that cartooning set. I'm going to come over here to my standard inker streamline. That's what we're going to be using to ink. And now we need to decide where is our light source coming from. So I've talked about this in previous videos before. Defining where the light source comes from really helps you to determine line weights of the design. So anything closer to the light source is going to have a thinner line. Anything further away is going to have a thicker line, is going to be where the shadows are. Those thin lines are where the highlights are going to be. Not only does this do some of the heavy lifting for you, but it also kind of keeps you on track when you move over to that highlighting and shadowing phase. You don't have to constantly remember, okay, where is my light source coming from? When you see those thicker lines, you just kind of automatically remember. So on this one, I think we'll have the light source come in from this top left-hand corner. So that means anything around here, gonna have thinner lines, anything down and over here to the right, gonna have thicker lines. So now that we've determined that, let's go ahead and start. I think I'm gonna come back here and begin down here at this bottom part of the tail. So thicker lines down here, coming up and around. Make my brush here just a tad bit bigger. So thicker lines to thinner as we come down and around. One more time to kind of show you that. So it's going to be a little bit thinner here. So one more time. And with this, number one, iPad has pressure sensitivity. If you've got the Apple Pencil, the brushes are built around the pressure sensitivity as well. So the thicker lines, a result of pressing harder. Thinner lines, you just don't press as hard. Pretty easy. So now I'm going to go ahead and come down here and do this line here. Once again, kind of thicker down there. Kind of connect these. And then we'll bring around the tail here. Like so. Up here, lighter line and kind of thickening up there as it comes around. Then we can do some thinner lines here. Inside as we kind of pull those down for that top fin. And we'll do the same down here as well. Pulling these and kind of changing the direction as we go on these. All right. Now I need to do these fins here, need to do the eyes. As you can see though, I've already got the lines here and lines here. So we're gonna have some overlapping. I could erase these and then try to match these up, but a lot easier way to do this is if we go up here to our layers menu and we make a new layer and we draw on that, we can erase any of the overlapping lines on the alternate layer. So on this new layer then, this blank, Choosing my brush again, we'll go ahead and get the fin in here, kind of connect that. Draw the thinner lines here on the inside, kind of coming down and around, just like that. Same thing over here, pulling that one up and around. Thinner lines on the inside, like so. And then for the eyes, once again, overlapping here. You'll see I'm going to hold down to kind of lock that in. And you can see I kind of want that eye, I guess, a little bit bigger. I think that looks a little bit better. So once again, not sticking to that sketch 100%. I'm making changes as I need to, as I see fit, and I'm not locked into it. So once I've got that set, I kind of want a little bit thinner there. There we go. Now I can erase, going up here to my eraser. I can erase the overlaps there. Now I can come back down here and erase the overlaps down here just by switching the layers there. All right, let me go back to my brush here. Still on that standard Inker streamline. Let's go ahead and do this lip next. Once again, still staying on this new layer here, so that way I can overlap down here and not have to worry about it. Pull this down and up. I'm kind of heavier here, thinner up here. One more time. Just till I get the right feel that I want for that line. So one thing really urge you to do is do a lot of undoing and redoing lines if you're not happy with them, just so you can get the right line. That's one of the great things about digital art. So definitely use that to your advantage. Now that I've got that, I'm going to come back to my layer 2 and just do the erasing to clean up those overlaps there. Everything's all lined up and good to go. Now I can go ahead and pinch those together, or I can also go up to the top layer there and just hit merge down. Now everything here is on the same layer. Back to my brush now. Get these teeth in here. Just like that. And then we'll go ahead and do the kind of eyelids or those bags under the eyes here. Just like that. A little thicker one there. Kind of pull some smaller ones there in the back. Do a circle in here, holding down my pencil and then holding down again with my other finger locks in a perfect circle. I can get the pupil in there. I can do the same thing then over here on this one. Once again, you'll see, change the spacing of this. It was down lower, but I think it looks better up there based on where I've got this one. So once again, not stuck and holding on to that sketch exactly, just kind of changing things as I need to. Taper line there for that eyebrow. I think that looks good. And then from here inside, I'm going to go ahead and switch here to just the standard Inker version, not the streamlined version of this brush. And then I can go back in here and just kind of add in some extra small details. For adding in these, I really like using the non-streamlined version. Just get a little bit more kind of organic, quick flick strokes here. And it just kind of helps the overall feel of those lines. Add in a couple dots here around the back. All right. Back to the streamline then. I'm going to go ahead and get the seaweed in here. Just like this. Didn't really like that one. Line there in the middle, and then get these little guys here as well. You'll see that streamline really kind of helps me keep some smooth lines going on here. I can still kind of get that funky feeling going around with the shape, but it just kind of locks in what I'm going for. Kind of smooths it out a little bit. So there we go, just a couple of little details in here coming around. And then I think I need another line in here. All right, so let's go ahead then and turn off our sketch layer. Coming back up to our layers menu, sketch layer off. And that's what we're looking at for the actual design of the fish or the character itself. I think that looks pretty good. So from here, we're ready to move on to our color flats. So to do color flats, what we're gonna do is come back up to our layer menu, and I'm gonna make a new layer, and I'm gonna drag and drop this underneath layer 2. So layer 1 was our sketch. Layer 2's our lines, and then layer 3 is going to be our color flats. Now I want to come up here and tap on layer 2, our lines layer, and I want to set these as reference. So this is going to allow us, when we click on layer 3, we're going to be able to drag and drop all of our colors into layer 3. It's not going to affect layer 2, it's not going to be destructive, and they're going to be on 2 separate layers, which is going to help us when we go in to actually do our shadows and highlights here in a second. So with that selected now, let's go ahead and come back up to our color palette here. And the first thing we've got is our yellow. That's going to be our main color of our fish. So we can just drag and drop this in. And that's going in on that layer 3. And you'll see it's using that as the reference for where the color goes. So there we go. Now we can move on to orange. So coming back up to our color palette and going to orange. And instead of dragging, dropping this every single time, what I'm going to do, watch as I drop this in, you'll see continue filling with recolor up there appears. Tapping on that then is going to bring up this little cursor you can see right here. And if we drag this over, you're going to see that we can then tap on all these areas, and it saves us a ton of time coloring in. We would have to drag and drop every single one of these separately, but just a super quick time saver there. Let me go ahead and, I think I got a little dot there I need to erase. All right, so back to our color flats here. Next up, let's go ahead and come up to our color panel again here, our color palette, and let's go with this blue. That's going to be the eyes here. There we go. And then once again, I'm going to come back up to my layers menu. I'm going to go ahead and put the whites of the eyes on a different layer here. So I'm going to get the white of the teeth in first. So I'll drag those in first. But now I want to go ahead and make a new layer for the eyes. This is going to make doing shadows on these a lot easier here in a little bit. So now the white of the eyes is on a different layer. Everything else color flat wise is down here on layer 4 or layer 3. So let's tap layer 3 again. Coming back up to our color palette here, and I've got this green color here for the seaweed. So we'll drag and drop that in there. You'll see I just had 3 there, so I usually do that real quick. The drag and drop color. Switching to pink here, I'll do the same thing. I usually don't use recolor if it's just a couple. It's not really worth hitting that recolor. So use it as you see fit. So there we go. We've got that done. Color flats are finished. Now it's time to move on to the shadows and highlights. So to do shadows and highlights, once again, we're going to come back up here to our layers menu, and I'm going to make a new layer here. It's going to be layer 5. And color palette here, I'm going to come up and select this brown color. Now, I'm also going to come back up here to my layers menu, and I'm going to turn off reference here on layer 2. So I'm going to fill in a pretty big section here with a shadow, and I'm going to drag and drop the color. If we've got reference on, it's going to drag and drop just like we did before, and I don't want that. So now layer 5 is going to be our shadows layer. The brush here, I'm going to go ahead and keep with the standard inker streamline for right now. And I'm just going to kind of follow around some of these lines here. Just like this. Then I'm going to kind of pull another line here down for that lip there. I just want to make sure that all this connects here. You're going to see this is going to go outside of the lines here. So I want to show you what not having clipping mask turned on does, and that's what it does. It goes all the way outside of the lines there. And then once I get this all connected, I'll be able to drag and drop the color in here. Once again, I've got that light source coming in from that top left-hand corner. So that's why I've got more shadows back here and down underneath here. Now that all this is done, I can drag and drop, and it's filling in everything, so something's not connected along the way. So I'm just going to go back one more time and make sure that all those parts connect. Now it should drag and drop and fill in. So there we go. Something was open somewhere along the line. So now let's go ahead and add this and make this a clipping mask now. And you can see, let me move this over. As soon as I do this, you're going to be able to see all this is going to snap basically to that bottom layer there. So all those parts that we went outside of the lines, that's what clipping mask does. So that's a good example there to show you exactly the benefits of using clipping mask. We didn't have to worry about being too sloppy around there. We could just do it exactly how we wanted to and then worry about it later. Go ahead and add a little bit of shadow here on that back of that tooth there. And then maybe a little bit here. Kind of down here underneath on that. So that's the majority of the shadows up here. Let's go ahead and add some in down here now on the seaweed. Get these in here. And then it's going to be time to do some adjustments on the opacity. Get over here to the pink area. So again, we have shadows being casted by the fish itself, and then also some back here just because of where the light source is coming from. So this is going to be pretty kind of heavy back here, shadows. But I still want some area in here that's the pink. All right, so now that we've got that all filled in, let's go ahead and come up here to our layers menu again, and we're gonna hit the N for blend mode and drop down the opacity of this. So hitting that and dropping this down, I would say probably about 30% looks pretty good right there. So now you can see it doesn't look brown anymore. It has a nice shadow effect to it. Now, all this back here, super shadowed. We don't want that. We want to have some difference between the two values. So we want the viewer to be able to see that, oh yeah, that is a shadow back there. And if we have this all one color, you really can't see that. Plus we got the light source coming in here. So we're going to have a little bit of kind of a highlight here. And we can kind of add in some fake ones around here too to break it up. So using our eraser now, we need to go ahead and use the streamline again here. We can just start to kind of remove some of the shadows back here. You can see that kind of brightens that up. You can see it a little bit better that that is two different colors. We can kind of remove some here just to, once again, give two different values sitting right next to each other so we can tell that, oh yeah, that is shadowed in, because I can see there's a very obvious difference between those two colors. So just doing some funky lines like this, maybe pulling another one down here, just a tapered line down here. I'm going to zoom in and pull around here. For these tapered lines, the way that the line goes here, I find it a lot easier to zoom in, and basically the flow of my drawing from my shoulder will work a little bit better zoomed in and twisted. If you feel kind of weird and your hand's in the wrong position, feel free to zoom in, kind of pull around the canvas. Once again, one of the great things about doing digital art, because like right here again, kind of at an angle. So if I do this instead, it just makes it easier to get that line that I'm going for. These lines down here, the way that these work, I can hit these pretty comfortably just by not zooming in or twisting. So those I can leave alone. But if you do have problems, if you feel like you're in an awkward position, definitely use the tools that you got at your disposal. Do a couple of circle things down there to kind of break things up a little bit too. All right, so I think that's pretty good for removing stuff around there. Let's go ahead now and let's do some shadows on the eyes. That's why we did these on a separate layer here, was to make this process a little bit easier. So coming up to the layers menu, once again, I'm gonna hit that layer there. I'm gonna make a new layer and we'll set that to clipping mask. And we're gonna draw the shadows here on that layer. So back up to our color palette, and I've got this blue color right here. We'll use that for the shadows here. And you're gonna see I'm just basically gonna try to follow around just the same way that that eye curves. That's how I want the curve of the shadow to go as well. Just kind of following it around like that. And then we can go ahead and put some other ovals here to add a little bit more detail there. Of course, this is pretty dark right now, so I'm going to go ahead and drop the opacity. So coming back up here to the layers menu, hitting that N for blend mode once again, and then just dropping this down to maybe about 50%. Looks pretty good there. That's good. So there we go. With the eraser too, we can always go in here and kind of remove some ovals. So that's got a little bit more detail to it, just the way that that comes down and around. So that looks good. Let's see, let's go ahead and add in a little bit of shadows here to the inside part there of the iris. So if we go back up here and choose bottom row here, this darker blue color, back to our layers menu, and we'll go back to that brown shadow layer here. And then we can just kind of pull in a shadow here around that eye. So it's not going to be super dark. We just want a little bit of a different color there. But I do want kind of a highlight in there too. So to do this, we're just going to come back up here to layer 2, which is our lines layer. And we'll just select white. So if we go back to our color palette and select white, we're just going to draw just a circle here, and then another kind of dot there in the center. So we got some reflection there going on too. Got a little bit of a highlight there, brings it out a little bit more. I think that looks pretty good there. All right, so now let's go ahead and move on and do some highlights. So same principle, same technique here. We're gonna go back down to layer 5, shadows layer, make a new layer. Once again, we want to set this as clipping mask. And then back up to our color palette here, and I've got this kind of brightish yellow, whitish color here. So we'll grab that, and then we'll just kind of follow around here where those highlights would be, where that light source is coming in there. Probably have a little bit of one here. Pull that down right there. Maybe do an oval one here, so we got a little bit of a shine or a glow there to that. We can also do one here on the top of the mouth, kind of coming down. Got one there. Kind of even pull this around a little bit more and then go back in with the eraser and do some of those oval removals there. That'll look kind of cool. Maybe do another one here and here, like so. And let's see, where else do we want to go to? We can put one here at the top of this back one, fin there. I think that looks pretty good. And then maybe along the tops of seaweed here coming down. Just hit the tops of those a little bit. And then maybe just one here coming down. One there, and then another one here. All right, so now let's go ahead and then adjust the opacity of this to drop it down a little bit. So once again, coming back up to layers menu, N for blend mode, and dropping that down. Maybe do about 45%. I think that looks pretty good there. All right, and that's what we're left with as far as the shadows and the highlights go. Looks good. Now we can go ahead and just kind of finish out this background now. So to do the background, let's go ahead and come up here to our layers menu. I'm going to go down underneath the color flats layer, and let's make a new layer. And then back up to the color palette. I've got this kind of bright blue on the bottom row here. Let's drag and drop that in there. And then from here, let's come back up here to the color palette. Let's choose this darker blue color here. Now with that selected, I'm just going to go ahead, switch my brush back to standard anchor, and just come down here and fill in just a pretty big rectangle here of this color. I don't know if I'll be able to drag and drop the color in here just because these blues are so close. It might want to fill in everything or not enough, but there we go. That's good. All right, so now that we've got that, I want to kind of get a gradient going on with this. And to do that, we're going to go up to our adjustments menu here. Tap that, and then go to Gaussian blur here on that menu. With that selected, we just need to slide our Apple Pencil to the right on the screen. You're going to see it gives that gradient. So we've got a darker color down here, which fades to that lighter color there. And I think that looks really good. But looks a little plain, so let's kind of finish it out with some bubbles floating around there. So back up to our layers menu one last time here, making a new layer. And back up to our color palette. We're going to go ahead and select white here. And I'm just going to go around and just kind of make some circles here, holding down, dragging and dropping color in there. We'll make different size ones, so big ones, small ones. Really no rhyme or reason as to where these are going. I'm just kind of alternating between the sizes of them. So we'll get a few in here. We can just even tap for some really small ones. We can even adjust our brush size too if we just want to tap instead of drawing the circles out. And once again, depending on how hard we tap on the screen, that pressure sensitivity comes in again. So we can do different size ones just by the tapping here. I think I kind of want to put some over top too of the fish and the background. So if we grab this layer now, and let's drag it all the way to the top here. This way we can kind of have it in the foreground, and it's going to go over top of these. So once again, just put them wherever you want, as many or as few as you think you need. And then once we have that done, we can come back up here to the layers menu. Hitting that blend mode, we can drop down the opacity of this so we can actually see through those, and it gives a little bit more of a three-dimensional feel. Now to make them pop a little bit more, last thing, coming back up here with our eraser, we can go ahead and just kind of erase some reflections in here. You can do some kind of tapered curves like that. You can do dots, however you want to do it to make it look a little bit more detailed, a little bit more reflective in there. Totally up to you, my friend. Let's get those around there. And that'll be it. So last thing I need to do is just switch over here to black. And making a new layer. I just need to sign this thing and I will be done. I don't have a lot of room here in the corners. Usually I like to sign in the corners, but this one I'm going to have to kind of zoom in pretty far down here to make this work. Oh my goodness. Not a lot of space. All right, so there we go. There is the finished cartoon fish. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's tutorial. If you did, definitely make sure you give it a thumbs up. Share it with a friend too. If they're new to Procreate or you think somebody else might get some value out of today's video, definitely pass it along. And if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, make sure you do that and hit the bell for notifications so you can get alerted when I post new videos. Also, if you go ahead and take part in any of these tutorials, if you follow along and then you post your work online, which I encourage you to do, if you're on Instagram or Twitter, tag me at BeeJayDeL so I can check out what you're doing. Also, if you're on Facebook, I've got a group over there called Keep Creating, a group for artists by artists, place where you can share your work based on these tutorials or just any artwork that you are currently creating. Great place to be and want to check out your work. You can get feedback, meet new friends. It's awesome and want you guys to be a part of it as well. So that's it for today's video. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, keep creating.